Here on NBA Today, let's head to Timberwolves hosting the Spurs. And let's start here, Chiney Ogwumike, in the first quarter because Jeremy Sohan was everywhere.
He's one of those fun watches in the NBA as a rook. I was like, okay, what shade is his hair now? And it's like a nice soft gray.
Yeah, blonde gray.
7 for 9 from the field in this one, but look at how aggressive he is on defense, pokes the ball out and gets the lob. Just athletic. That's what people love about him coming into the league. Brings some energy. Energy that gets you wins. Wins against one of the better teams in the West. But look at that. Extension and finish. Beautiful 14 on the night for him.
Third alley-oop, and the boos would come out in Minnesota. So Minnesota fans clearly not too pleased. Spurs win 115-106. Here's Chris Finch after the game.
They just out-punked us in every way possible. You know, outran us, out-competed us, out-physicaled us. It was, it's ugly and unacceptable. All credit to them. They kicked their ass and we felt it.
All I got to say is we're not going to show up on Wednesday. We're not coming. You take your chips off the table in Vegas, and we're not coming.
Matt, I think Pop's enjoying this early part of the
Absolutely.
season.
There's a lot of young guys on this team and there's not too many expectations. But one thing about Pop's teams, they're always going to play hard. They're always going to be prepared, and they're getting wins early in the season.
And it's also the must-hear. Pop always is the must-hear post-game.
Classic. Him and Belichick.
Exactly. But Karl Anthony Towns, he had some interesting comments after the game. Take a listen.
Maybe I could do a better job of teaching him how to take care of his body, diet and everything. So that'll be on me. I know y'all think it's funny up here when he talks about Popeyes and all that. That doesn't make me happy to hear. We're high-level athletes, so.
So that was Kat talking about Anthony Edwards. I do want to bring in Kendrick Perkins into this conversation because, Perk, were you surprised to see him say these things on the podium?
I am, and it's unacceptable. I think, as Kat continue to grow in the leadership role, he can't do those type of things. That's a conversation that you got to have behind closed doors. What Kat should have came up and said is that I have to be better. I have to be better in the pick and roll defense. I have to get back in transition. What Anthony Edwards did for us is struggling. Look, this young guy is young. He's very confident, and he's going to continue to find his way. But Cat have to remember, Kevin Garnett was one of his veteran leaders. He didn't air him out publicly, and I know he had some things that he had to clean up. Hell, he had to work on himself getting in shape and learning how to diet and do nutrition. So I don't like that interview that Cat did. I think it was weak. I think he needs to reevaluate himself first, and then, it's a learning process for us, his leadership skills.
Yeah, I think Perk hit it on the head. This is a conversation you have with him one-on-one, not to me, especially when it doesn't pertain about basketball. This kid is young. He's a stallion. He can eat what he wants. All that healthy eating, I agree with it, but not so much when you're young. This is, to me, more about, I think there's a new sheriff in town, and hopefully I'm reading this completely wrong, but Anthony Edwards is going to be the man on this team, whether it be the end of this year or by next year. I love Cat and what he's been able to do, but you've seen he's been able to get it so far. Anthony Edwards is the guy that can take them to the next level. So I'm wondering, is Cat kind of feeling that Ant is coming and it's going to be Ant's team soon? So to me, that's more I'm not really worried about right now. I'm just worried about long-term, like whose team is this going to be? And it looks like it possibly could be some friction when it comes to whose team it's going to be.
Yeah, and in this modern age of basketball, it's hard to lead from the center position, especially when you're young, and there are a lot of dynamics on that team with the power and how they're going to be their best selves. And I've just you have to sometimes keep things out of that telescopic view, and you want to be microscopic, like every game matters. But this is a tough stretch for the Timberwolves. They've had 3 games in 4 days, and you probably look at this big picture and you're like, okay, against the Jazz, against the Thunder, against the Spurs, these are all must-win games if we're trying to prove ourselves as real contenders in the West. And they dropped 2 out of those 3. So I know that there's frustrations, but it's never great to air out a teammate, even if you're joking. some teammates don't like jokes or don't like, to
Right.
be called out in public. And like Matt said, we all know we went through the first few years in the league of eating what we wanted. And then the league humbles you at some point. That comes around 5 years, 8 years into the league. And then you realize, hey, the advantage that I have is by taking care of my body and my nutrition, not trying to force people to your timeline because that's where you are in the league in that moment.
That's still a problem for me.
I knew that was coming.
But also, this is the first time there's been real expectations on this team in a long time.
Exactly.
Since Kevin Garnett has been there. So, I mean, maybe they're feeling just a little bit of the pressure because they do have the best roster they've had in a long time, being able to add Gobert and what he brings to this team. So I think they're feeling a little bit of that squeeze, too, like we're supposed to be better than this. But, again, it's still early.
But I like that. I kind of like that, right? I like the fact that maybe they air these things out at this point in the season. Hey, we care this much. I made a mistake in saying this, but let's keep it pushing.
Please air it out, but to me, air it
inside, in the locker room.
It's one of those things that if folks had said it to each other in the locker room and then it makes its way, sometimes we see that happen. But in terms of the scale of big deal to little deal to no deal, this kind of skews.
And also, as vets, what do we do? Like, whenever I have a young rookie that says I need to eat better, it's like, oh, I've got this chef that helps me meal prep, and it's like, let me throw you a couple meals. I'm like, free food, I got it.
Keep eating your Popeyes and cheeseburgers and keep dunking. You'll be all right.
Right, but here's the thing, though. Anthony Edwards been doing this since he came into the league. Could have been had this conversation with him. And then look, Ray Allen. Let me applaud Ray Allen for a second. Ray Allen used to always decompress before he did post-game interviews, and he would give short answers. And I said, why? He said because after losses, he would be so frustrated that he would need to go home, sleep it off, and then let him regroup and rethink things, and then he would like to go back to the next practice and answer those same questions. So it's a lot of teaching moments. And by the way, this is one thing why the Minnesota Timberwolves might just miss Pat Bell, their locker room presence that's able to bring that camaraderie and hold guys accountable inside the locker room.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.